Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latoya McCray, and welcome to the Incumbent Worker Training System live demo webinar concerning the updates for emergency and natural disasters. Want to thank you all for taking out part of your day to come into this webinar, and we have an agenda for you, and we're going to actually show you more details on how to update your training plans concerning emergencies and natural disasters. So for today's agenda, we'll do introductions of the SIU team and also Department of Commerce, along with our purpose, the new modifications of IWTS, and then we'll go into a live demo. And if you have any questions, we will have answers for you through the Q&A section. Before we begin, we want to make sure we give some housekeeping rules. So if you are on another call, please mute your phones or your computers or laptops just to make sure there is no interruptions during the live webinar. And also, once this webinar is completed, we will send you information about the training as far as instructions is concerned, along with the recording. So give us by the end of the day or tomorrow morning, and you will have that information to you via email. So before we get into the purpose, I'd like to introduce myself again. I am Latoya McCray. I am the Training and Integration Coordinator here at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Some of you, I've probably worked with you, helping you get some technical assistance for IWTS. And I would like to introduce my colleague, Jerome Grimer. And Jerome, if you can introduce yourself.
You are unmuted. SIU Carbondale since 2010, and I'm one of the developers that worked on IWTS, and I'll demo what you're seeing here today.
Thank you, Jerome. And so at this time, I would like to introduce Mike Baker, and as he will go over the purpose for this new update with IWTS.
Thank you, Latoya. So our purpose today really is a reaction to some inquiries that came from several local workforce areas when the COVID-19 crisis first hit and social distancing and stay-at-home orders first began. And trying to react to businesses that all of a sudden that were very gung-ho or in the middle of training, that all of a sudden were either having second thoughts or were maybe considering we're already undergoing layoffs. And basically, how can we react to an outside influence on projects that otherwise would have been going along just fine, or we're under development just fine. So what we are going to go over today is a way to allow you to capture whenever one of these outside influences, either like an emergency or a natural disaster, may have impacted your project, whether it's either already underway or was under development and you had parts of it entered into the system and you need to go in and change something. The purpose really is twofold also. One is so that we know that there was some outside influence and the project didn't fall apart either for lack of trying or some other administrative issue. This was due to something that was acting on us outside. But also the very prominent, very large priority from both the state and U.S. Department of Labor is to have more thorough evaluations of what's going on with program implementation. And we saw this as an opportunity, one, to capture how the state and the local areas and our grantees that are doing incumbent worker projects have reacted to the COVID-19 crisis, but also, how that has played out. And then as additional funding becomes available and companies may want to embark on additional incumbent worker training with this new money that's coming to us, how to capture that those efforts were also related to COVID-19. So as we thought through it, we came up with ideas. Well, this is not, we can make this not just for COVID-19, but we can also broaden it out a little bit so that anytime in the future we have some kind of outside influence like this, we will be positioned to capture that information and help evaluate and figure out best practices, figure out, maybe where anomalies were, and just kind of figure out how we can go about it better the next time it comes around. So that's the overarching concept and why we developed it, and in the reaction to the request from information for local areas. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Latoya and Jerome, and they will show you the details of what we've been working on. So thank you all for your participation today and your interest, and I'll turn it over to SIU. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike, for giving all of us the purpose of this new modification. I appreciate that. Okay. So in IWT, we have some new modifications, as Mike stated, to address, COVID-19 and future emergency and natural disasters, to make sure that we input information that is accurate in how it affects our program plans, our projects. So the new fields have been included in IWTS to update the system. And so these new changes will affect 3 areas of IWTS, and that will be the project details page or screen. It will be quarterly reports, but it will focus more on the final quarterly reports only. And then the last screen that is affected is the project history and actions, and it's only affected if you're requesting to cancel a project. So on the project detailed and quarterly reports and project history and action screens, you will see a list of fields that will be populated on your screens, and you can see the screenshot on the right hand side of our presentation. You will see, was the cause of the emergency or natural disaster. In this case, you will either select COVID-19, facility damages, or destruction. And please note that this will change based upon whatever we are facing in our economy or just locally. But these fields may change depending on what the occurrence may be. But as of now, it will focus on COVID-19, facility damage, or destruction. The next question is, what is the impact of the emergency or natural disaster? You have 4 choices. You can see if this emergency or natural disaster has affect layoffs, illnesses and deaths, and others. If you choose other, you will see additional emergency or natural disaster info. And so in that section, you can make comments and make more details on what the other actually is. So another question is, when was the project impacted? So you're going to specify what the date was. When you go onto your IWTS account, you will see that the date is pre-populated as March 21st, which is according to the governor's shelter in mandate. So that date is pre-populated. Depending on your circumstances, it may be that particular date, or it may be a date that's later. What is the nature of the modification? And the 4 choices would be change mode of delivery. If you went from in-person training and then it may be now online training, change training dates, change project costs, and change training providers. So at this time, I am going to give it to my coworker, Jerome, as we'll go into the live demo on how these new modifications have been implemented in IWTS. Thank you.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see just what we're talking about here. Okay, so I have here, this is the list of projects that a person has available to them, a grantee. And I'm showing you the grantee view right now. I'm going to pick this Fuyao Glass USA project because it's one that has already been requested to have a modification, and the DCEO contact has approved that request for a modification. So that part of it hasn't changed at all. What I'm going to come do now is come down here and you see, is this project affected by an emergency or natural disaster? As soon as I say yes, it pops open the additional fields that LaToya was just talking about. And I can pick one. Facility damage or destruction and COVID-19 are our choices. And as you see, when I picked one, it popped in the definition right underneath. So if you're in doubt as to what one is, just pick it. And then if that definition doesn't make sense, well, then you know you need to pick something else. So because we're in the throes of COVID-19 right now, I will go ahead and pick that one. And then I'm going to say that, well, the impact on the project was from illnesses. Workers in or planned for the training became ill. Like I said, it could be the workers. It could be worker absenteeism. You know, maybe not the workers that were being trained, but some other workers that were important for production became ill. So we had to pull some of the people back out of their incumbent worker training and put them on production issues, because otherwise we were going to run short and not be able to meet our deadlines. Like LaToya mentioned before, if I had picked other, then this additional emergency or natural disaster info field becomes required, and then you have to put something in there. But for now, we're just going to go with illness. And then we have the 4 choices of modification that she talked about earlier. We're going to change the training dates. And you can leave this blank if it's not required. If you pick something other than other, this is optional, but I'm going to say that we are extending training through the end of June instead of ending it in late May. And we'll just leave this date here alone because we can. So what I can do then is I can now come down here and save this information. And then I can go to the project action screen. Project history and actions. No, that's not what I want to do. Yes, it is. I think. And submit project. It's not eligible for, oh, I have, my apologies, I have to go. It's been a while. I have to review the plan. Review the plan. Okay. At any rate, you would then review and submit the plan. When it comes time for quarterly reports, I will just go ahead and jump right into a final quarterly report right If you're not doing a final report, it doesn't matter whether the project is flagged as being affected by an emergency, as you can see here. But I'm going to go ahead and say yes. This is a final report. It reloads my screen, and you can see that I have the final report fields here. And I'll put $30,000 in there just because I can. This is grayed out. You see it's yes, but it's grayed out because you've already submitted the report, or the plan. Plan has been submitted in the past. Once a plan has been submitted, a grantee cannot remove the designation that the project has been affected by an emergency. However, you can contact your DCEO contact and they can remove it for you. Again, you see the additional information fields. It pre-populated it with the information from the project record. Maybe things have changed since you've done your first said that this was affected by an emergency. So I can put additional information here. And there's all the regular quarterly report fields. And I can save and then submit the report just like always. I'm going to go back to the search now and show you how you can cancel. You can request a cancellation of a report of a project, because this is just a little bit different. So once my computer catches up with me here, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about it. When you cancel request to cancel a project, that is going to happen on the project action and details screen. And we did it that way because we didn't want to change the flow of the project too much from what you're already accustomed to seeing. So, wow, I don't know why this is taking so long. There we go. Okay, so I will pick this project right here, and I will do a request to cancel from the project action screen. So I will go to project history and actions. Scroll down here and I will click request to cancel. And as you can see here, it again asks, is this project affected by an emergency or natural disaster? If you say no, nothing's changed, then you just do this just like always, but we're going to say yes. We'll pick COVID-19, illness, and you see here, you're requesting a cancellation, so the nature of the modification is that it's canceled. We don't let you change that. And you probably will want to put in more details than what I'm putting in here. And then you would say request to cancel the project. And at this point, your DCEO contact for the project will be sent an email saying that you requested to cancel the project. They can then come in here and see where it says request to cancel project, show details. they click that, and here's all the information they need to, they can see, yes, it is affected by an emergency, and all the information that you put in right there, and they can then use that to make a judgment as to whether you cancel your project or not. And they either approve or deny your request. It's pretty much that simple. So I will turn this back over to Latoya at this point.
Thank you so much, Jerome. So I am looking at our chat box to see the question. This is from Jessie. She states, if a project has already been canceled due to COVID and that was noted in the cancellation request, do we need to do any follow-up actions?
I'm not aware of any. I'm going to pass this one to Mike to say, Mike, how do you think we should handle something like this?
I suggest that we want the system to capture all of this information the same way. So we may have to look at this one with them to determine, how it looks in the system and if we need to apply any of this new functionality to it. So we'll have to look at this one and see.
That is a great question, though. I'm glad you asked.
A follow-up question to Jesse. Was the project, did it make it to being accepted, and was it underway and any activity happening, or was it more preliminary? Okay, that makes it much easier.
You're welcome, Jesse. So the next question we have from Norm Griffin, it says, what would we select if the trainer canceled the training?
I believe illness also covers the trainer, and death also covers the trainer. So if the trainer becomes ill or passes away, that is certainly a valid reason to modify the project.
I want to add on to that statement, Norm. Did the trainer cancel based on traveling, or were they sick? Because that will really determine the nature of, the cause of why the trainer canceled that particular training program. Okay, so basically in Norm's case, for precaution on reasons, the trainer just canceled. So I would say, and Mike, please correct me, I would say other, because the training method doesn't change, is just being canceled. So I will select other, and then your the comment box for additional information, and just state that the trainer canceled due to COVID-19.
A quick question, and this is for Latoya and Jerome. Both of the examples that we've been given so far probably are going to be the most common, whereas either the company or the trainer either deferred or canceled due to social distancing requirements. So rather than, would it make sense to add one more option to meet social distancing requirements, or just have everyone do other?
This sounds to me like it could be something that's pretty prevalent. So why not just put it, do we want to just add another reason code or another impact code to say trainer canceled?
Or just say training canceled. We can add that fill on there, and then the grantee who is inputting the information can specify more in details in the comment box. So we can add that as an as an option?
Well, my suggestion would be, because right now we have either illness or death, and in both of those cases, it applies either to the company or the trainer. So,
Right.
so what if we added another item that said social distancing of either the company or the trainer, whichever. So we would have 3 and then the other. And this one would follow the form of the 2 that are already there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easy enough to add. It's just in a table. So I literally, it's 5 minutes worth of work as long as we don't need any special behavior out of it.
Okay. Okay. So based on everyone's questions, another field that would be added to the reasons is social distancing. So you will see that in IWTS as another option alongside with other in death and illness. Okay, so thank you for those questions. We have another question by Robert Jones. If a training has started and COVID delayed the training, would we be able to extend outside of our fiscal year or no? I'm going to pass that question to Mike Baker to answer that.
It depends on the duration of your normal funding cycle. The training cannot extend beyond the end date of your grant. So if it wraps up prior to that, you're good to go. But if it would need to go beyond the end date of the grant, then you would have to create a subsequent project to finish up the training.
Right. So I think this goes into the detail. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. But if your grant started in FY20, you could technically use funds from it for training through the end of FY21. But if your grant started in FY19, because the grant ends 6/30 of 2020, you wouldn't be able to extend beyond that.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mike, for that. Are there any other questions based on what we saw today in a live demo?
I see a question at the very top of the chat. If we reported a change in instruction method, such as we moved to online in our March 31st quarterly report, do we have to go back and complete these screens at the final report? Mike, you want to take that one?
It would be preferable to have them go back and make the change in the system so that we're sure that it's capturing the information the way we want it to across the board. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, my understanding is that if they do make a change to the final report, then how would that impact that? We don't want to do busy work if we don't need to do it, but my understanding is since the project's not done, we would need to have them have this information in through this new screen that we've shown them.
Right, and I think it would be best for them to do a request to modify, and then the DCEO contact would approve the request, and then they could go in and add it right to the project. If the next report is the final report, the one that's due June 30th, they technically could wait until then, but by then they might forget. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another as to which way they want to do it. But I agree with you that we want to have it consistently in the system the same way.
Right. So to be safe, since this is new to everybody, my suggestion is, my direction is, you need to go back and change it using these.
Okay. The next question, it says, Mike, if a company wants to do IWTS for furlough employees with the intentions of bringing those employees back to work using newly obtained skills, will that be approvable? And this is from Jesse.
That is a fantastic question. Typically, if an employee is furloughed, that means they are UI eligible and they are, otherwise, considered not employed. Let me do some digging on that. If the company is willing to attest that they intend to bring them back, otherwise, I'm sure they wouldn't want to train anybody that they don't intend to bring back. So that makes sense. We'll have to do some digging on that one. That's a great question. But I'll do some digging. We'll get back to you on that.
Thank you for that. We'll make sure, Jesse, we'll get back to you on that question. We have a statement actually, or a question. It's from Diana. It says, I thought that the grant could extend 2 years. So a project program year 19 grant runs to June 2021 when it's closed out, correct, Mike?
Yes. PY19 goes through June 2021. Yes. So it's whenever the expiration on the grant is. Don't make it any more complicated than it has to be. Your projects can run through the end of the grant, but not beyond. So if you need to have additional time and cross years like that, the simple fix is just to begin a subsequent project with the same information, same employer, same trainer, and just indicate this new project is a follow-on to complete the project begun under the prior grant. That's how we do it normally now anyway, so that's not a change.
Thank you, Mike. We have another question for LaDonna Russell. Do we need to go into our current projects and update if employers postpone training plans?
If you enter them in the system and something has changed, then yes.
Okay. All right. So to that question, LaDonna, the answer is yes, if you couldn't hear Mike Baker. Are there any other questions? Okay, this is from Norm Griffin. So if an existing project will cross a fiscal year due to COVID, how do we break down the financial aspects? If the project is not complete, how would we explain the reimbursement?
Okay. So you would enter in the actual cost in the final report for the program year, which would automatically adjust, the cost of the project down. And then when you start the new project in the subsequent grant, then you would do it for the balance. So this has nothing to do with COVID. This is how you would do it, regardless of COVID. You update the costs, and then you put the balance on the subsequent grant. It's a good question.
Hello, Miss Grace.
Hello. Okay, so I want to scream at IWTS.
Okay.
Management got all the way through it, and in a long, beautiful case note, and it kicked me out. So then when I went back in, I can see she's enrolled in case management, but if you go to my case notes, there's nothing there.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. So I'm going to look in the chat box one more time. This is from LaDonna Russell. Can you let us know when the IWTS system has been updated to reflect the social distancing option? Yes, LaDonna, we will definitely update you on that. Please, I would say, give us by tomorrow morning to make these updates so everything in the system is fresh and running smoothly. And so you will have, the recording to this webinar along with instructions on how to update IWTS when it's regarding emergencies and natural disasters. So I will say, everyone, if you give us till tomorrow morning, we'll have those updates for you. Okay, and I will put something in the email stating that the system has been updated, so you'll know that you can now go in and make any changes to your training plans. Okay, you're welcome, LaDonna. Are there any other questions? We still have some time for questions. Until I see those in a chat box or if someone wants to speak, just want to give you some context for IWTS. You all asked great questions today, and this will help us to even improve IWTS system, and just making sure that you all as grantees or managers or coordinators receive the information that you need to be effective in updating your training plans. So with that being said, this screen that you see is basically contacts. So we have Kaylin Valenti. She will be assisting up until this summer. We have Mike Baker. Thank you once again, Mike, for all the questions and answering the questions. And then we have Lorraine, and if you have general technical information that you need assistance on, you can email info@Illinois workNet, and we'll make sure that we'll assist you with any technical assistance. So once again, we are currently at 2:41. Are there any additional questions? Okay. Okay. So I do not see any additional questions. So once again, on behalf of SIU Carbondale and Department of Commerce and Equal Opportunity, we want to say thank you so much for coming on this live demo webinar for IWTS and the new updates as it relates to emergencies and natural disasters. Thank you once again, everyone, for getting on this call, and you have a great afternoon. Thank you.